recently had a conversation with a client in which he shared with me one of the things that he felt was responsible for his exponential success in our work together. And I share this story with you not because it has me looking good as his coach, because really he was the one that did all the work. I was just his guide along the way. I share it with you to paint a picture of what's really possible when you consistently look in the direction of truth. Because when we began together, he was hoping for sort of this much, and what he got was this much. And that's common when it comes to this level of transformational work. And secondly, I share it with you to share his tip because it's really good and it really did make a difference. You know, what it was that he realized, he said when we began, he just sort of knew that he needed, in his words, he needed to be brutally honest with himself and with me. And in looking back at all he accomplished and in what we were able to accomplish in our work together, that really did make a difference, right? And you know, when we began, he was sort of hoping that he could grow his business just enough to at least pay back the coaching fee. He was like, that would be great. What he actually did was over 10x his investment in coaching. And although the money was wonderful, he said, that wasn't the best part of it. That wasn't the greatest returns. You know, when we began, he sort of felt like he needed to be at all of his job sites. And I don't know, that's not really sustainable when you want to scale your business. And as he was brutally honest with himself and we looked in the direction of truth around that, he saw through that. And that no longer made sense for him. He was able to delegate and free up his time for higher level projects and doing the ones that were near and dear to his heart. He was able to sell bigger jobs and do bigger deals. And he did say that he had such a steadiness and an ease in his sales that the clients told him that was part of the reason they knew they needed to hire him. It was just this steadiness where they were worried about things. And what was kind of interesting is that, you know, in our time together, he kind of started caring about money less and less, and ironically started making more and more. That doesn't always happen that way, but a lot of the time it does. But you see, this is the thing that he really found the value in. He says the returns really came in who he became. He felt, in his words, that he really came to know himself and his power. He became the man he always knew he could be. And it wasn't an ego thing. It was so much less ego. You see, because that's what happens when we're brutally honest with ourselves and looking in the direction of truth. The old thinking that looked real starts to kind of fall away. And when that happens, more of our innate, authentic self just shines through. And that innate self there is contentment, joy, happiness, aliveness, generosity, curiosity, playfulness. And so much of this started shining through and impacted everywhere he was showing up. You know, he talked about his capacity to really deeply listen to people. He said that transformed all of his relationships, many of them in surprising ways, and greatly impacted his leadership and helped him create more leaders. You know, he as throughout our year together, I watched this man's smile just deepen, brighten, and just so sincere and genuine. You know, today, what's next for him? You know, when we started, it was really about, you know, success, and he achieved that, and it's kind of ongoing. He's grown his business to be much more self-sustainable, and he's working on projects that are more exciting to him. But what's alive for him today? He's just so lit up by being able to make an impact for millions in his work with his generosity, his coaching, and teaching spiritual truths. To me, it was a joy to watch a man who was already alive, already having success in his life, come more fully alive, be more fully free, and just let the purity of his being shine through in ways that were just lighting up his life and surprising him and bringing more miracles. It was just a joy. And again, I share this with you because in the beginning, he had no idea that all of this was on offer for him. He was hoping for just this much. And that's common, because what we can see as possible is limited by the way our world view looks. And as we consistently look in the direction of truth and are brutally honest, that reality starts to change and more possibility begins to open up. And exponential success becomes more and more inevitable. What that success looks like varies person to person, but it genuinely is more in alignment with what's true for you, what makes you feel alive, what you truly want, what's going to bring your life more joy, happiness, and fulfillment. And I loved his words, brutally honest, because on the one hand, like, before you've seen truth, sometimes that's what it feels like. It kind of feels like truth can be brutal, like it might offend, upset, and disrupt. Once you see truth, it doesn't feel so brutal. There's a grace, there's sort of an innate compassion, and sometimes just like hilarious. Sometimes it just cracks me up at the way I used to make up the world to be. And I can laugh at myself. What being brutally honest is not. It is not looking for your truths that are going to offend and upset somebody. But it is looking, not limited by those. It is unconditionally looking in the direction of truth. And I saw that with this client. You know, he was willing to look everywhere. And he knew from me I could go anywhere with him. And that made a really good partnership for us to continue looking at the places where we could get the most leverage in his leadership, in his business, and in his life. And, you know, for me, especially when it comes to sales was a place I was not, probably one of the last, I'm sure there's still other places I haven't really been brutally honest, but I was not willing to be brutally honest with myself in sales. I sort of saw every sales conversation as an acceptance rejection. Every no, you know, was a personal offense. You know, that's sort of how I used to make it up. And so I think if I had this idea of being brutally honest with myself around sales earlier, it could have really helped me, which is why I want to offer it up for you guys here. You know, I had a coach who wanted me to review my sales calls, to just notice what I could notice. That was it. She didn't tell me to judge myself or compare myself to others. But I couldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And I told her I made up excuses. That would have been really powerful, to just be brutally honest. I didn't do it, period. And that's my, additional offer with being brutally honest is just to share your truth, period. Don't qualify it, justify it, diminish it, excuse it, explain it. Don't do anything with it. Because the minute you try to do anything with it, you're taking what you've just seen to be true and making it fit back into your current reality. And that's not going to get you anywhere other than where you already are. If you'll just share your truth as you see it, and even if you know that the way you're making it up isn't necessarily the way it truly is. I kind of unknowingly limited myself that, because I knew that as I started taking a closer look at this inside out nature of life, I held back some of my truth because I thought, oh, well, that's just my thinking. And I know it's not true. But it kept me from really looking at it and letting it go somewhere. So don't do what I did. Speak your truth as it is. And being brutally honest for some might mean, seeing the truths that might upset, disrupt, or offend. You can be appropriate with how you share them and where you share them, but it's first and foremost being honest with yourself. And for others, being brutally honest might just mean looking in a direction that you haven't yet been willing to look. It might be taking a look at your sales calls. It might be noticing what you really are willing to do and what you're not willing to do. It might mean seeing what's really true about why you didn't make that phone call, or why you did make that phone call, or why the call went that way. There's something about speaking our truth as we see it and not doing anything with it that makes space for insight. If you'll just see it, period, declare it, period, you might see something more about it. And for this client, that is exactly how he got exponential results. It was, here's something that this is true, and making the space to see more about it is how things just started to transform. And over a very short period of time, the way he saw the world started lining up more and more with the way it truly was. And things became so easy for him. His ability to make an impact was so effortless and fun. He just delighted in the way that he could, make an impact for others. He had more and more fun with it, which had him more and more inclined to help others, which created more value, which created more revenue, right? So I invite you to take this on and see what you can see about it. And if the word brutally honest isn't the right word for you, find whatever word is. But how can you be unconditionally honest with yourself? How can you see more and more truth in ways that bring about more and more freedom for you? Because anything that you want more of, different, new, other than, it really helps to see something fresh and new about that. It will open up possibility for you. And wherever you're getting support, whether you're working with me, another coach, or really working with yourself, this will serve you. There's something really powerful about just having the intent to see more truth. That alone goes a really far way. I like this little addition of brutally honest, because to me, it kind of is like, ooh, can I just kind of turn up my intention to see truth just like a half degree more, and just see where it takes you. It might help, and I promise it can't hurt. And don't take my word for it. Test it out. Namaste.